Hey everyone, welcome to the Gyrl Podcast. I'm Kyra Mitchell Lewis, and thank you all for joining. Hope everyone is doing well. I hope your week is going well also. It's Thursday, so that means we are ticking closer to the weekend. Hope you all have something fun planned to do this weekend. All right, so why don't we go ahead and dive in? So last time we got together, we talked about landing that dream interview. So we talked about some tips and some tricks and things that you could do that will help you land what you might consider to be a dream interview. So just quickly, we'll talk about those tips that I gave you. So number one was doing your industry research. So just making sure that you understand the industry in which the company you're interviewing with is in, and just sort of the ins and outs, the competitors, the players, all the people, all the things about the industry. And then also you want to do number two, conduct research on the company. So you just want to make sure that you have done the due diligence, right? Whether that's you reaching out to people that may have worked there via LinkedIn, finding, having some informational one-on-one interviews, or going to their website. But obviously, I would say always take it a step deeper than the website, because of course the website is their best face. Maybe going to Glassdoor, reading some of those reviews as well, if you can't connect to someone who worked there previously or someone who is currently working there. All right, the next thing is how, make sure you're able to create a winning application by really looking at the job and the opportunity and making sure that your skill set aligns to it. So I think that's one of the most important things that people can do when you're looking for a new job. You don't have to have all the skills that are mentioned, but if you have transferable skills, you have some skills, and you are someone that can learn fast and quick, pick up things easily, never count yourself out. And then also the next thing was follow up on your application. So if you don't hear back from someone, if there is someone you can reach out to on LinkedIn, or if there is an email address attached, just follow up, check in. Sometimes when there are a lot of jobs or a lot of applicants for a certain job, a lot of times you might get lost in the fray, but maybe just you doing that initial follow-up or just reaching out helps to let the recruiter know that you are really interested in the opportunity. And then last is really about that preparation. So making sure that you are practicing for your interviews, maybe do some trial runs with your friends or your family or a coworker, just to make sure that you are comfortable with answering maybe what those general questions, but then also make sure that you bring in your own questions as well. All right, so if you did not hear that episode, you can just look back in the platform that you are in listening, if you're listening audio, but you can also check it out on YouTube as well. All right, so today, now we're going to talk about, we just talked about prepping and getting ready for the interview and making sure you do all the right things. Now I want to talk to you about what happens if you don't get the job. What happens if you happen to get rejected after the job interview? So we all know that no one really likes to be rejected, particularly when it comes to a job opportunity, especially after you've put in time for the interview, you've practiced all of your responses, and you went in and you wanted to make the right impression, and you feel like you made the right impression. A lot of times a rejection can be a real blow to one's confidence. I think the important thing to remember is that, and one thing that I always take away is that missing out on a job, it also has a silver lining, right? Maybe that job just wasn't for me. Maybe there is something better for me, and it just wasn't the opportunity for me. But you got the opportunity to go through the process, so it helped you to you know, refine or enhance your interview skills. And you may also leave with some opportunities of things that you can do better the next time you have an interview, and it can increase your chances at getting the right role for you. So what I want to do is talk to you today about some things that you can do after a rejection to improve your opportunities the next time around. All right, so number one, I would say ask for feedback. One way to get something, positive or a good takeaway from not getting a position is to ask for feedback. So while all interviewers might not be, not all interviewers will be willing to share insights with you. Some may give you some basic information about maybe some things that, you can do better, or, sometimes you have to think about it. It's really important to ask that, because sometimes the job being rejected may not have even had anything to really do with something that you did wrong, but instead it is, a fact that maybe someone else had skills that topped yours. Or maybe someone else had a better resume, or someone had more experience in an area. So I think when you ask for feedback, it not only helps you to improve how you interview moving forward, but it also helps you to not make assumptions about what you should have done differently. Because if you don't get feedback, or if you don't ask for it, I think we tend to just get in our own heads and overthink and say, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do? I must have done something wrong. And then you're just sitting with it as opposed to asking. So there's no harm in asking. And I think any good recruiting team will want to help someone by giving them feedback, just so that they can do better the next time. And because I've seen that a lot lately, where people even if I put in when I was job searching and I put in a resume somewhere, then if someone came back and said, oh yeah, we're not going to move forward with you, then I was like, oh, may I ask what the other candidates that you decided to move forward with, what did they have, or what did you see in their resume that you didn't see in mine? And I've gotten some pretty good feedback there. All right, number 2, reflect and review. So once you've come to, once you've allowed yourself to have that moment to say, I didn't get this job, I'm really upset about it, I really wanted it, I didn't get it, it's okay. You gotta give yourself that time to feel, because that's important. So once you have settled in that, and then okay, I didn't get this job, now it's time just to have some reflection. So ask yourself, what would you have done differently if you were able to have that interview again? And especially if we look at number 1, where we talk about asking for feedback, right? If we're able to get feedback, then it will help us to be able to look at it from the interviewer's perspective, and also our perspective, to make sure that we're not missing something. So even if you don't get that feedback, just think about consider how you planned. How much time did you put into it? How much time did you put into researching the company? And how prepared were you for the questions? Because we all know there's a standard set of interview questions that are going to be asked in most job interviews. And then there are always going to be situational ones where they are based around, tell me about a time when you did X, where there's tying to your real life experiences. So if you're somebody who maybe didn't prepare, or did you cut corners, or did you go into the interview and not have any questions for your interviewer? That, I will tell you, as a person who interviews, that is one of the worst things, I think, when you get to that, level. So usually I'm sort of towards the end of the interview process, but even when I start, so if you start out with the recruiter, there should be a grouping of questions that you have to ask the recruiter. There should be questions that you're asking the hiring manager. There should be questions that you ask the teammates that you would potentially work with. And then there should be questions that you ask the leader or the head of the department. So at each level, you should be able, I mean, if you can't come up with any on your own, just Google, because Google will give you lots of questions that you can ask. And also, I would just say during the reflection stage, like it's not about beating yourself up. It's looking for opportunities where you can learn and improve for the future. So just make some notes so you can look back on them the next time that you have an interview. All right, number 3 is look at personal development. So aside from working on your interview skills, you may also need to look at planning, for personal development. So for instance, if there's a lot of feedback that, maybe you didn't have enough leadership experience, maybe you could figure out ways that you can volunteer for more leadership opportunities in your current role. Or maybe there's an opportunity where you can do some volunteer work outside, or maybe there's an organization that you volunteer with, or there's an organization that you work with, or there's a nonprofit. Maybe there's opportunities to take on leadership roles there. I tell people all the time that just because a role says that, have you managed people? Yes, of course. They probably want you, they ask for that. But I think that if you can come into a role and talk about how you've led groups of people for, a project, here's a goal, this is how we met it. If you can do that, I think that people will also take that as real life experience as well. So I would also say too, look at what you've done in the reflection stage and what you've got back from the feedback, and take those notes and figure out how are there things, ways that I can look at, developing myself. And then focus on ways that, you can be a more hireable candidate. So looking at those skills we talked about, looking at the skills you have, transferable skills, and also skills that may be gaps for you, but figuring out ways that you can fill those in either the current role that you're in, or looking out externally for some other opportunities. So don't worry about if you were likable. I like to say, tie it to the actual skills and what you brought to the table. All right, the next thing is building resilience. I mean, we all know when you are interviewing, you have to have thick skin when you're applying for jobs. Only because there are so many people in the world, their jobs. And I know if anybody out there, if you've been on LinkedIn and you've looked at a LinkedIn post, a job that posted, and it already has 5,000 people that have already applied for it. So obviously, if you apply for it, then you become 5,001 that applies for it. Every opportunity that you apply for, you won't get. But there's no sense in not applying. I always say, because what is for you, I believe, is going to be for you. And so I think that you just have to do it, and you just have to be resilient. I will tell you about, I guess, maybe 2.5 years ago, when I was applying for jobs. I mean, I applied for jobs for a whole year. I know you've heard me say that. I've said this in some previous episodes, for a whole year, and I got some rejections. Every time I got a rejection, I would take the email, I would print it out, and I would put it in my little box so I could open it up at the end of the year to see all the jobs that God felt I was too good for. Because that's how I started to look at it. At first, I was really upset, and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm applying for these jobs. Why don't these people want, why don't they want me? I'm really good at what I do. But eventually, I just felt like if I didn't get an opportunity, or I wasn't selected to interview, then maybe it just wasn't for me. And then also too, then on the other hand, when you do go on interview, there were a lot of jobs that I went on interviews for, and maybe went through like a first or second round and didn't get called for the third round, and that's okay. I think that's okay. And I think you have to tell yourself that. I think you have to go into it saying that I want the job, affirm that you want the job that's best and right for you. You don't want any old job. You want the job that's designated for me. And I think when you do that, then it makes it a lot easier for you to deal with like getting those rejections. I mean, after a while, it became funny to me. I was like, oh, wow, okay. All right, cool. So you don't want to really like get down, every time that you experience it, because it can suck away from you and suck away your confidence. Like I said, just tell yourself that I was too good for that job and that there's something better for me. And I think that will help you build resilience. All right, the next thing is, and the last thing is, refine your job search. Finally, one of the best things you can do to boost your chances of success is to really look at, are you applying for the best jobs that are suited for your talents? Because sometimes when you have a more narrow focus, then you can find more jobs that are suited for your actual skill set versus just applying for roles because they seemingly, have like, oh, like in marketing, oh yeah, well, it says a marketing manager. But like really look at that marketing manager job and determine, are all these skills that are in here, are these things I'm going to be happy doing? Because it's one thing, we talked about earlier about your skills, and yes, you can have transferable skills. Yes, you can learn on the job, which all those things are okay. But I think if you want to find a job that feels exactly right for you, I think you have to get more narrow and more singular in figuring out what it is that you really want to do. And I think that's important. So I think you have to look at the opportunity, and then you have to look at your resume, and you have to also say, is this something I want to do every day? I think that's important. All right. So, if you're applying for roles, right, that are out of your league, or if you're applying for roles that you're overqualified for, there's going to be an issue, right? So if you're like, I think we talked about on our last episode, if you are someone who's been in leadership, but you don't really want to be a leader anymore, you prefer to be an individual contributor, then maybe your resume has to be switched up so that it just doesn't look so leadership heavy, and you need to focus more on like the execution part, the drive and strategy part, and less about the managing people and the managing and guidance of people. So just some things to think about. I will say to you, so I'll give you a personal story. Probably, I think it was 2021, I believe. I was just starting to look for jobs because I was thinking to myself, I can't do this anymore. I need to get out of here. And as I got started, someone that I connected to on LinkedIn reached out to me on a Tuesday afternoon. I still remember, I can still see it so clearly. So Tuesday afternoon, I was having a really bad day at work that day, and someone reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm going to be hiring for this director role in marketing, and I was just wondering if you were interested. And I was like, what? Because I have been following this person's career trajectory, and I knew the new company they were at. And when I tell you, y'all, it was a dream job. Like, we talked about landing a dream interview the last time we were together, but when I tell you, it was like the dream job for me. Like, when I told my friends about it, my family, everybody was like, that is a perfect job for you. So, met with this person, had a conversation the next day. They were like, send over your resume. I was like, fine, great. Yeah. So I sent my resume over. Person looked at my resume. They came back and said, okay, so the next step would be doing a project. Now, a project is a topic for another day. that love-hate relationship with projects, right? I understand the purpose of projects. We do projects at my current job to have people, but you can't have people like planning out your whole strategy for stuff and then you're not hiring them. Okay. So got this really big project because I remember at this point we were heading into July 4th weekend. And in order for me to do this project, I was going to have to spend basically my whole holiday weekend working on this project. But I was like, I was sold, I bought into it. I did it. I mean, I did above and beyond, as anyone who knows me knows that it's always like, I always go above what is asked. So I did all that and got it in, that Tuesday. I think we had that Monday off or something for 4th of July. Got it in that Tuesday morning. Person came back, said, yeah, okay, that's great. So we're in July now. We're in July. The person also said, I've got to travel. I'm going to be, on the move or whatever during July. Okay, fine. Just keep me posted, right? That's all I'm asking. Keep me posted. So, person like disappears for like the whole month of July. I'm emailing, not getting any feedback, because at the same time, I'm thinking, there are other opportunities that people are reaching out to me about that I'm trying to hold, because this one right here seems like this is going to be like the perfect one. So then, then this person comes back and they're, oh, I'm so sorry, so busy, blah, blah. So side note, my mom had been saying that, well, I just don't know about this. I think maybe you need to move on, because every time this person like disappears and you can't, but I couldn't hear that, y'all, because I was so into like, I wanted that opportunity. Like I really wanted it. So I was just like, okay, mom, I hear you, but like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So, fast forward to, I think it was August. And it started with a series of interviews, meeting different people. And the company was based on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast. So I was doing, interviews like in the evening. I mean, I talked to like all the peers to this role. I talked to the CEO. I talked to the COO, and then I think later I think we went through August, we got to September maybe. And I had what I thought was like a final set of interviews lined up. So it was like on a Monday, like there were 2 people. I thought like this was going to be it. I'm going to be getting an offer, because from everything I'm hearing from my contact is like, everybody loves you. They love, the work that you presented. And, and even after some of those calls I had with some people, I was sending over things just from the conversations being like, oh yeah, like this is something we could do. All right. So abruptly, my interview gets canceled on that Monday. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So I'm just reaching out to the person, following up saying, hey, just wondering if we're going to be rescheduling this. Silence. Nothing happens. Get nothing. So I'm sitting there and just really feeling like, oh my God, like what happened? Did they fall off the earth? Checking their website to see if like the role is like up again, or, checking the LinkedIn, checking all social media, all those things. Well, come to find out in October, there was some issues in that company that were taking a turn. There were some legal issues. And I found out from like one of my contacts that someone I used to work with sent me a text, and they were like, oh my God, like, is this the company you were interviewing with? And I was like, yeah. And so this was on a Friday. This was a Friday evening. And when I tell you, like, I was heartbroken, like heart, like broken. And I remember like I went to bed early that night. I wrote a letter to God, because I was just so like distraught about it, because I mean, I saw that job for myself. I saw myself in that role. I saw myself in that company. And so it's not same rejection of like being told you didn't get the job, but it's a different type of rejection. But I went to bed that night. I sulked over the weekend, but that next week I told myself, you got to dust yourself off and you got to figure out, your next game plan. And so I continue to move forward. And so I say all that to just simply say that it is true. It does hurt rejection in any form as it relates to life, to jobs, career, whatever. But I soon figured out that like that wasn't an opportunity for me. I saw some things continue to happen with that company, and I was just like really glad that like I wasn't a part of it because it did not end well. So building that resilience and just believing that the right thing for you will come for you. You just have to also pack your patience. It's not on that list, but you have to pack your patience. All right. Okay. So that is it for today, my friends. So before I go, remember you can head over to glowupgirl.com to access previous podcast episodes, resources, and more. So you can also like check out our interview episodes where I get to talk to some pretty amazing people in the areas of entrepreneurship, business, coaches, authors, some really great people. So you can check out those episodes as well. If you are hearing these career stories and you're thinking that this message is resonating with you, you can head over to our Patreon community and you can take advantage of our Glow Getter membership. It's $5 a month. You go there, you'll get some exclusive tips, guidance, resources, and just more. Whatever like strikes the mood for me and I want to tell you, share with you, you'll get that there. But everything is all designed to help you to create a career and a life that you love. So if you're starting out or you're leveling up, our membership can take you to new heights. All right. Also, share your thoughts, topics with me. DM me on Instagram. I'm at glowupgirl. Also, you can send an email to hello@glowupgirl. You can find all those in the show notes. If you're on a platform that allows for you to leave us a review, please leave us a review or rate us. I have to tell you, I really love reading the reviews that you all leave. So I thank you so much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for the time, because I'm a person, I don't like to write reviews. I I don't like to write reviews, but I do. And when I do, it's because I really like mean it. So I really appreciate all of you for taking time out of your day to write reviews. Also share this episode. Sharing is caring. So share the podcast, this episode, with anyone that you think might benefit from it. So, all right. So we're going to go. Thank you. Thank you again so much. Until next time, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.